A news ticker is a primarily horizontal, text-based display either in the form of a graphic that typically resides in the lower third of the screen space on a television station or network, or as a long, thin scoreboard-style display seen around the facades of some offices or public buildings dedicated to presenting headlines or minor pieces of news. News tickers have been used in Europe and countries such as United Kingdom, Germany and Ireland for some years. They are also used in several Asian countries and Australia. In the United States, tickers were long used on a special event basis by broadcast television stations to disseminate weather warnings, school closings, and election results. Sports telecasts occasionally used a ticker to update other contests in progress before the expansion of cable news networks and the Internet for news content. In addition, some ticker displays are used to relay continuous stock quotes during trading hours of major stock market exchanges. Most tickers are traditionally displayed in the form of scrolling text running from right to left across the screen or building display, allowing for headlines of varying degrees of detail. Some used by television broadcasters, however, display stories in a static manner or utilize a flipping effect. Since the growth in usage of the World Wide Web, some news tickers have syndicated news stories posted largely on websites of broadcasters or by other independent news agencies. Current users. Television. The presentation of headlines or other information in a news ticker has become a common element of many different news networks. The use of the ticker has differed on a number of channels. Financial news channels use 2 or more tickers progressing at different speeds, displaying stock prices and business headlines. Networks with a focus on sports often use a slightly different system, where scores and statuses of ongoing and finished games are displayed one by one, along with minor sports highlights, statistics and sports news headlines. News networks commonly use a setup in which news headlines are scrolled across the bottom half of the screen, though some variations have formed, such as CNN International presenting them without a scrolling effect, and showing one headline at a time. Usage of the scroller has also grown in use by a number of local stations for their newscasts, used during severe weather events to provide information on areas affected by storms, in addition to other uses, such as presented school delays and cancellations during winter weather in some regions, and the presentation of headlines alike to the general news networks. Due to their current prevalence, they have occasionally been made targets of pranks and vandalism. In one such example, News 14 Carolina allowed viewers to submit relevant information such as school closings or traffic delays via telephone or the Internet that would be incorporated into the ticker. The system was exploited in February 2004 to display humorous messages, including the infamous "All your base belong to us." Some businesses and organizations have utilized tickers intended for relaying weather-related closings as a surreptitious source for free guerrilla marketing, proclaiming they were open rather than closed and giving their phone number if possible, allowing them to advertise on a television station all day for free. Since then, many stations have required pre-registration of businesses or organizations with an authorized representative and a signed affidavit on company letterhead affirming their authenticity, along with filtering out unfamiliar businesses and organizations, before being able to display their closing announcements. Stations also confirm all closings involving school districts with authorized officials to prevent situations in which students either show up to cancelled classes in dangerous conditions, or do not attend school due to an erroneous, prank submitted, or false listing. On personal computers. Various applications have been developed over time to install news tickers on personal computer desktops using RSS feeds from news organizations, which are displayed in a fashion similar to those used by television channels but enable the user to access to underlying news stories, a feature not offered by traditional television channels. A ticker may also be used as an unobtrusive method by businesses in order to deliver important information to their staff. The ticker can be set to reappear, stay on screen, or be put into a retractable mode. One such software solution, the Snapcom's desktop newsfeed tool and the XCOMM's desktop scrolling ticker alert tool, allows communications teams the ability to send these tickers to staff members. In the United Kingdom, Broadcasters have stopped using this technology as other forms of communications have become available and increased in popularity. BBC News and Sky News discontinued their respective desktop tickers in March 2011 and 2012 to focus on other products, such as smartphone applications, to deliver updated information on breaking news and sports stories. Building news tickers. The most famous news ticker display is the zipper that circles One Times Square in New York City. The New York Times erected the first such display in 1928, with similar tickers having since been incorporated onto several buildings in Midtown Manhattan. These include a similar display located on the exterior of the Fox News Corporation headquarters in the west extension of Manhattan's Rockefeller Center, as well as one that displays delayed stock market data that is located in Times Square. The Reuters buildings at Canary Wharf and in Toronto have news and stock tickers. The latter type features market data for the New York Stock Exchange, Nasdaq and London Stock Exchange, while the Toronto building's ticker also includes quotes from the Toronto Stock Exchange. A red LED ticker was added to the perimeter of 10 Rockefeller Center in 1994, as the building was being renovated to accommodate the studios for NBC's Today. Placed at the juncture of the first and second floors, the ticker is visible to spectators in Rockefeller Plaza and passers-by on West 49th Street and updates continuously, even at times when Today is not being produced and broadcast. As of 2015, the ticker strip is only a small part of a large two-floor LCD video display that is placed within the window of the studio showing promotional information. The Martin Place headquarters of 7 News, the news division of Australian television broadcaster 7 Network, also incorporates a ticker that wraps around the building. This ticker is identical to the ticker that is seen on 7 Early News, 7 Morning News and 7 News at 4.30. By country. Asia. China. In the People's Republic of China, state-owned China Central Television uses a news ticker on its 4 television channels, CCTV2, CCTV4, CCTV5, CCTV13 and CCTV News. India. Almost all of the news channels based in India use a news ticker, most of which display them in a 2-band format, each of which have a different purpose. Some stations, such as Sahara Samay and News Live, use one of the horizontal ticker bands to display text advertisements. Most of the news tickers used in the country are structured as scrolls. One such exception is with CNN-IBN, which uses both a flipper ticker for headlines and a scrolling ticker for stock quotes. During breaking news coverage, CNN-IBN places an alternating breaking news text and headline title on the upper band, with news updates regarding the news event on the bottom band. Indonesia. In Indonesia, the country's 2 national news channels, Metro TV and TV1, both display continuous news tickers, a practice that is followed by provincial or local news channels within the country. Other national and local channels use a news ticker on an occasional basis, primarily on news programs to show updated news stories. On other programs, a ticker may be used solely for the purpose of providing information on breaking news stories or for text advertisements. Malaysia. In Malaysia, news tickers are utilized by Astro Awani and Bernama TV. The former keeps their ticker on screen during commercial breaks, unlike that used by Bernama, as the case with those used during news programs broadcast on TV1, TV2, TV3, NTV7 and TV9. Pakistan. Geo News and Dunia News use a single-band scrolling ticker that displays headlines in both English and Urdu. A special red flipper variant is used for breaking news coverage, with the story text displayed via an animation. A red over white upper band was also added during such events, which displays an alternating breaking news text accompanied by the story title in both languages. The channel sometimes incorporates a secondary news ticker placed above the standard ticker during certain special coverage. ARY News also uses a news ticker to display news headlines. Philippines. In the Philippines, tickers are featured during news programs by various networks including TV5. CNN Philippines. The state-owned PTV and Intercontinental Broadcasting Corporation. and local news programs aired by domestic television stations DWAO-TV and DZEC-TV. GMA Network GMA Network was the first Philippine television network to incorporate a ticker within its news broadcasts. The network formally incorporated traffic data provided by Traffic.com within the ticker in the early 2000s. During elections, GMA also utilized a ticker displaying updated vote counts, even during broadcasts of the network's telenovelas. GMA News TV uses two types of news tickers, a silver version used for news programs augmented with a black time bug on the left side of the screen, and a thicker white ticker for public affairs and entertainment programs augmented with a red bordered clock on the left side. ABS-CBN ABS-CBN later began using a news ticker by 2003, with its presentation having improved over the years. Sister service ABS-CBN News Channel introduced its own ticker in 2005, which is usually accompanied by a stock market ticker provided by the Philippine Stock Exchange placed above the main news ticker. The tickers used by ABS-CBN and ANC are also usually accompanied by a time bug placed on either the left or the right side of the bar, opposite the scrolling headlines. South Korea In South Korea, KBS1, KBS World and MBC TV each utilized news tickers during their news programs, and in some instances, during non-news programs. News tickers were first introduced in the country in 2002 by KBS1 and MBC TV for their morning news programs. KBS World later introduced their own ticker in 2009 for its news programs, including KBS World News Today. KBS1 and KBS World would switch their tickers to a flipper effect in 2012, while the version used by MBC TV continues to utilize a scrolling effect. In Singapore, Channel News Asia utilizes a news ticker normally consisting of a single banner graphic for general news headlines. A secondary ticker is used by the channel above the main ticker during breaking news coverage. Thailand, news tickers were first rolled on television in Thailand in 2000. Modern TV implemented a stock ticker in the 1990s, before introducing a separate ticker for news headlines on November 6, 2002. Nation TV was one of the first news channels in the world to feature a specialized ticker to relay viewer comments via Twitter in June 2009. Vietnam. In Vietnam, news tickers first appeared on domestic television on June 5, 2010 by VTV1 for its morning, midday and late-night news programs, as part of a visual overhaul that also included the introduction of a new graphics package, logo and newsroom. Australia. In Australia, the first major use of news tickers occurred in the aftermath of the September 11 attacks on the United States in 2001. Since the initial introduction, 7 Network and 9 Network's respective morning programs Sunrise and Today had retained their own tickers, although Sunrise changed theirs into a flipper effect while the ticker used by Today only displays weather forecasts for various Australian cities. Sky News Australia maintained a news ticker that previously featured weather forecasts. Following an update to the channel's graphics package in 2012, the ticker switched to provide basic news and sport headlines, with weather forecast data docked on the left side and the current time for each time zone within Australia and New Zealand on the right. News tickers were also adopted for use by the Australian Broadcasting Corporation for its midday report bulletin, and by 7 Network and 9 Network for their respective early morning and afternoon bulletins. While flipper tickers are used by Network 10 for its early morning news program, ABC's ABC News Breakfast and News Channel ABC News 24. The news service Big Pond introduced a news ticker on its website in May 2009. Europe. Several European news channels have used tickers as part of their on-air graphics packages for years, such as German news channel NTV, which has utilized a news ticker since it launched in 1992. United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, Sky News and BBC News both use news tickers throughout their programming. The ticker used by BBC News, in particular, features a dark red background with white Helvetica text identical to that used by BBC World News for general purposes, which is removed during programming promotions, countdowns and weather segments. While a lighter red version is used during breaking news coverage. North America United States. Though modern and efficient news tickers were not created and launched until the 1992 introduction of the HLN sports ticker, or fully popularized in the United States until September 11, 2001, the first record of a news ticker being used as part of a regular broadcast was on NBC's Today, used when the program first premiered on January 14, 1952. Without the benefit of computer-generated headlines and digital on-screen graphics, the ticker was very different from the ones in use today. The Today ticker was an actual piece of paper with typewritten headlines superimposed on the lower third of the screen. The ticker was never very successful as a communications tool and was dropped not long afterward. By the 1980s, in northern parts of the United States, many local television stations placed a ticker on screen during local and network morning newscasts to disseminate information on weather-related school, church and business closings. Severe weather watch and warning information was also commonly disseminated by local station via a ticker, later accompanied by a map of an entire state or the station's viewing area. In both cases, the start of the ticker's cycle was often accompanied by an attention signal, such as warning tones, an abbreviated cut from the station's news theme or a jingle used by their affiliated network. The first network to utilize a continuous ticker was CNN Headline News. In 1989, the cable network introduced a ticker that initially featured stock market data with indexes of the major stock exchanges and quotes for major companies during market trading hours, which were updated on a 15-minute delay. This was accompanied in 1992 by the introduction of the Headline News sports ticker, which showed sports scores and schedules for the day's upcoming games. The combination of both tickers, with the sports ticker appearing only during early morning and nighttime hours, created the first continuous news ticker on television. CNBC and forerunner network Financial News Network also debuted a ticker featuring stock prices during business hours. However, prior to 1996, these stock tickers could only show pre-selected stock quotes, making the system highly manual and clumsy. The first fully automated stock ticker to appear on television was in 1996 on CNN-FN. By the mid-1980s, ESPN featured a specialized ticker at the top and bottom of each hour called the 28/58 update, scrolling up to the minute sports scores and news. By 1996, spin-off network ESPN2 debuted its own ticker, dubbed the Bottom Line, which featured non-stop sports scores and news nearly 24 hours a day. East News, after a 2000 redesign of its on-air look, became the first network to have its ticker remain on screen during commercial breaks. ESPNU soon followed upon its launch on March 4, 2005. By September 5, 2009, all of the ESPN networks in existence at the time maintained continuous tickers that appeared during programs and commercial breaks, though high-profile events such as Monday Night Football and the NBA playoffs still only run the ticker at 28 and 58 past the hour, deferring to game action. While news tickers had been used occasionally by other networks over the years, the news ticker became a ubiquitous part of television news following the September 11 attacks in 2001. Needing a way to provide a continuous stream of vital but repetitive emergency information to viewers, Fox News Channel placed a ticker on screen at 10:49 a.m. Eastern Time. CNN implemented its own ticker at 11:11 a.m., with MSNBC adding one of their own at approximately 2 p.m. Eastern. Although the need for tickers to relay information related to the aftermath of the terrorist attacks lasted only a few weeks, management at all three cable news channels quickly decided that the use of tickers would help increase viewership by allowing the ability to process multiple simultaneous streams of information. As a result, the tickers have been permanent features on all three channels ever since, except during some documentary programming, presidential speeches, or other selected programs. In recent years, American cable news networks have used their news tickers to let viewers offer their opinions on the stories being covered, or depending on the occasion, sending messages to friends. During its coverage of New Year's Eve celebrations in Times Square in New York City, Fox News Channel lets viewers text well wishes to family and friends for later broadcast on the news ticker. During CNN Newsroom and the short-lived program that spun off from the Rick Sanchez-hosted Hour of the Former, Rick's List, CNN also used its ticker to provide viewer opinions on stories that Sanchez was covering at that moment. CNN headline news HLN equals. The HLN Sports ticker was test-launched on the GCTV cable system in 1992, and then expanded nationally in December 1993. With a combination of an existing stock ticker that ran continuously while U.S. markets were in trading, this created the first continuous 24-hour ticker on television. The HLN Sports ticker provided scores for professional sports and a deep roster of college sports events as well as scheduling information for games that were to be played later in the day. It also experimented with incorporating in-game sports news such as pitching changes, time remaining, injury reports and statistics. The idea for the HLN Sports ticker first met with resistance by some CNN news anchors and executives. Before the popularization of the Internet, the HLN Sports ticker was the first available method of getting this information in real time to viewers that would normally be disseminated only during local news programs, morning newspapers or ESPN's Sports Center. At the time, many newspapers and even ESPN were not covering college scores outside of the top 25 teams ranked on the AP poll, among the approximately 110 football and over 200 basketball teams. The HLN Sports ticker's presentation was organized by conference and covered every team in Division I including women's basketball, men's baseball and hockey. To accommodate the sports and stock tickers, the video feed containing headline news rolling newscasts was shrunk to a pillar-boxed placement above the ticker, with blue bars on the left and right wings of the screen. The ticker's design was revised in 1994, with a translucent black background overlaid on the lower third of the video feed which was now presented full screen. Another innovation of the HLN Sports ticker was the fully automated combination of computer-generated graphics with a wire news service. Jim Alexander, director of CNN Research who proposed and developed the HLN Sports ticker, worked with Ken Mullins who created the computer programming to recognize the conventions and labels in the wire service data and convert them into the words and symbols displayed along the screen. The speed of the scroll and font type became important as to not distract the viewers from content on the rest of the screen, but readable for viewers that started watching the network for the ticker itself. The increased viewership demonstrated a market for this type of data and the ability of people to visually navigate a screen with more than one set of content. Over time, headline news began providing more information through tickers, including news headlines and weather information, expanding in 2001 to include a large L-shaped window format that was heavily criticized. Now known as HLN, the channel eventually limited use of a ticker to news headlines, and eventually discontinued it altogether by 2011. Fox News Channel Fox News Channel, a sister channel to Sky News, was the first American cable news network to debut a permanent news ticker, at 10:49 a.m. Eastern Time, on September 11, 2001 to relay information on the terrorist attacks that began 2 hours earlier with the separate crashes of two hijacked airplanes into the World Trade Center. The scrolling ticker displayed headlines in yellow lettering on a black band, with a General FOX logo as a bullet to separate each story. From 2001 to 2004, the ticker featured an Helvetica narrow font, after which it was replaced by a normal Helvetica font that was used until 2013, when the font switched to Avenir. The text was colored blue for a short time in 2007, before reverting to yellow on September 24, starting with that day's edition of the Fox Report. The ticker's background was also made translucent in late 2007, before reverting to a black band in 2008, at which time a Fox News text logo replaced the Fox logo as the headline bullet. Fox News on-screen ticker is only removed during the network's late-night talk show Red Eye with Greg Gutfeld and coverage of the annual State of the Union address, along with rebroadcasts of some special programming, such as documentaries and re-airings of Bill O'Reilly's series of films based on his killing. book series examining historical assassinations and deaths for National Geographic Channel. CNN CNN launched its own ticker to relay updates on the aftermath of the September 11 attacks, at 11:11 a.m. Eastern Time, less than a half hour after Fox News implemented its own for this purpose. The ticker became a staple on the network for the next 7 years. It was given only a few minor changes during its run, but always featured yellow lettering on a black background, with the CNN logo as a bullet for each scrolled story. CNN US and Headline News converted their respective tickers to a flipper version on December 15, 2008, with the introduction of new on-screen graphics package. A flipper ticker had already been in use previously on sister network CNN International. In 2012, after a trial run during its American morning program, the ticker was modified to feature stories grouped into individual categories in a similar manner to ESPN's Bottom Line. The traditional scrolling ticker was brought back on February 18, 2013 specifically at the insistence of new network president Jeff Zucker, which originally displayed with white text on a dark blue background, before switching the next day to blue text on a shadowed white and gray background. During breaking news coverage, the entire ticker is displayed with a dark red background, while the ticker uses a blue background for network promotions. On August 11, 2014, the ticker was changed to a white text on a black background. As of 2013, the ticker is only deactivated entirely during special event coverage and primetime programming. During federal election coverage, the ticker is replaced by a larger pane showing more detailed information. Holiday travel weekends feature the bottom third filled with a graphic of major cities, their temperatures and current flight delays, while severe snowstorm and hurricane coverage has the same information, along with current average wind speed. MSNBC MSNBC was the last cable news network to debut a ticker on September 11, 2001, at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Like Fox News and CNN, MSNBC's ticker was displayed with yellow lettering, but utilized a slightly transparent background. When the network's on-screen graphics were revamped in 2006, the ticker was also changed to featuring white lettering over a dark gray background. The MSNBC ticker is seen during the network's morning and daytime broadcasts, but is removed during live primetime broadcasts of the network's political talk shows, broadcasts of MSNBC documentaries, and during daytime shows that instead utilize a rundown banner for each segment. The ticker was changed on June 29, 2009 to a flipper-style ticker similar to that used by CNN, coinciding with the launch of MSNBC's high-definition feed. The design also repositioned other graphic elements such as the network and program logos, current time, stock exchange data and live indicator as a banner graphic at the top of the screen, a first for a non-sports or non-business-oriented specialty news channel in the United States. The ticker eventually changed back to a scrolling format, with categories for each news genre switching to the individual stories through an arrow animation. During election coverage, the upper bar and lower ticker are both colored deep blue and are shown continuously during both programming and commercials. CNBC Since its inception in 1989, CNBC has used a special ticker to monitor the values of securities and indexes on the stock market. The Business News Network uses a two-pane ticker placed at the lower third of the screen, which run at slightly different speeds. The white top banner monitors market and commodity summaries, while the dark blue bottom banner monitors stock quotes for individual companies and provides news headlines and weather forecasts. A rotating ticker, partitioned into 3 segments, is also used that displays index and security prices. These tickers are not displayed during CNBC's primetime or paid programming. At the time of its implementation, computers could not keep up with the full stock feed and as such, the ticker could only show pre-selected stocks making the system highly manual and clumsy. CNN-FN CNN-FN, a now defunct business news network spun off from CNN, was the first to create a fully automated stock ticker for television. Until the network launched in 1996, computers were not able to maintain the entire stock feed in memory to enable delaying all quotes and commodity summaries in 15-minute intervals. Tickers previously implemented for the purpose of disseminating stock data were pre-selected subsets of the feed and could not automatically select stocks of interest without manual intervention. Working with SGI and Standard & Poor's data feed, Niels B. Lahr, a developer at CNN-FN, developed the first system that could provide delayed stock market quotes in a dynamic television display as a ticker. This was a major advancement, as the viewers, for the first time, understood that the ticker represented all available stocks and thus would reflect any vital changes without manual intervention or pre-selected stock quotes. Other tickers the morning shows of the three major American broadcast networks Today on NBC, Good Morning America on the American Broadcasting Company, and CBS This Morning on CBS display their own tickers throughout much of the broadcasts, except during commercial breaks and weather segments. However, in some markets, local network affiliates display their own tickers in place of those used by the network. In the case of Today, NBC designed the ticker used on that program for the purpose of allowing affiliates to display local news headlines over the space and does not provide a fallback headline scroll featuring national and international news stories, resulting in the ticker appearing merely blank on NBC stations that do not provide a headline overlay in the space. CBS This Morning similarly does not provide a universal news ticker, and individual CBS stations may instead use a ticker designed to match the program's graphical scheme. By comparison, Good Morning America features a fallback national ticker, with some ABC affiliates using it in lieu of overlaying a locally programmed headline ticker. At minimum, the continuous on-screen displays used by all three programs incorporate a bug displaying the current local time and temperature. The Weather Channel, a weather-centric cable news and entertainment channel co-owned by NBC Universal, Blackstone Group and Bain Capital, uses a ticker known as the lower display line which displays local current weather observations, day-part and extended forecasts, and the current time by time zone in a usually perpetual format. This ticker is accompanied by a vertical sidebar on the right side of the screen, which provides a rundown of upcoming segments and supplementary weather data, and unlike the main lower third ticker, is removed during commercial breaks. A separate black ticker with white text and red accents appearing above the local LDL is used to relay ongoing severe weather alerts for the local area issued by the National Weather Service and/or Storm Prediction Center. Both the ticker and sidebar are inserted over the national feed by a proprietary computer system inserted at the head end of cable television providers. However, a fallback ticker sidebar displaying observations, forecasts and airport delays for major U.S. cities, as well as record data and specialty forecasts is displayed on the Weather Channel's national feed available to satellite and some telco providers that are unable or chose not to utilize these systems. Local television stations similarly may air weather alerts from the National Weather Service and Storm Prediction Center by way of a ticker, accompanied by a beeping alert tone as an audio leader to warn viewers of its issuance, and in many cases, a map of the viewing area or state showing the alerts in a color-coded display. Some stations incorporate an audio feed from a local NOAA weather radio station to provide detailed alert information, whereas the ticker in these instances will simply display details on the issued alert type, its time of expiration and the jurisdictions affected. The ticker may appear at the lower third or upper third of a screen, depending on the station's preference. Since the early 2000s, television stations have also used tickers to provide information on ongoing breaking news stories continuously during regular programming and commercials, and to provide local and national news headlines and weather forecasts and in some cases, traffic data and lottery results during local newscasts. Stations may also use tickers to inform viewers of programming notices, as part of required weekly or monthly tests of an emergency notification system, or to inform viewers of station contests or station-sponsored charity events. The Trinity Broadcasting Network, a broadcast television network featuring programs aimed at evangelical Christian audiences, employs an on-screen digital feature much like a ticker during its programs, especially Praise the Lord and Behind the Scenes. The ticker features white italicized garamond lettering on a band displaying a swirling mix of blue colors. Instead of news headlines, TBN's ticker typically announces special events and program tapings at the ministry's various production studios, messages encouraging viewers to ask cable and satellite providers to carry its digital multicast networks during weekend blocks of Smile of a Child's TV and JUCE TV programming, and occasional information on upcoming programs. The tickers last the entire length of behind-the-scenes episodes, but are more prudently used during editions of Praise the Lord and periodically during other programs. For music and music video channels, the usage of a ticker has varied. IMX, which ran from 2003 to 2006 on Fuse, used a ticker to display the current scores of bands, albums, music videos and television offerings according to the online game played by users of IMA Euro's website. The values of the properties were influenced by current Billboard charts and concert sales, among other criteria. MTV, since 2008, features a flipper ticker to provide information on musical works and artists featured within its programming. Current tickers during music video programming mainly feature social media content such as fan requests and shoutouts from sources such as Twitter and Facebook, along with music news headlines usually sourced to the network's website. C-SPAN's television channels display news tickers, which announce political and legal news items and upcoming live broadcasts. Canada, like the United States, tickers are typically used by 24-hour news channels such as CBC News Network and CTV News Channel, as well as during local morning news programs. South America Brazil. In Brazil, news tickers were introduced in the early 2000s and are often used by all pay news channels, such as Globo News, Band News and Record News. In 2015, two pay sports channels, ESPN Brazil and Fox Sports Brazil, introduced their news tickers in some programs and games. Sometimes they are also used in a few free-to-air channels, usually to show breaking news or Twitter messages sent by the viewers. References in popular culture. The use of news tickers has also been parodied on a number of films and television programs, including a 2003 episode of The Simpsons, as well as a sketch featured on Saturday Night Live. Some programs and films such as Austin Powers and Goldmember sometimes place jokes within their parody news crawls. The Onion News Network uses a parody ticker to offer jokes in its online newscasts. The Australian comedy news series CNN went a step further, although it featured a joke news ticker throughout the show. One episode featured a news ticker that summarized the initial news ticker, as well as one for the sight impaired, which covered the whole screen. The music video for the Chameleon Air rap single Hip Hop Police incorporated a parodical news ticker announcing the arrests of famous musicians. See also, ticker tape, television news screen layout. References. External links, DMOZ news tickers, tutorials on how to make online news ticker in JavaScript, Crawl News site.